I'm a huge fan of networking. It's probably my biggest wheelhouse. Within a big company, I had the job of making stuff happen, and I had to, you have to bring in all these other disciplines to make these big projects happen. People who don't work for you. So you have to influence them to get stuff done.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yonah Weiss. I am excited to be here today with another awesome guest. It's been many years coming that I've actually wanted to invite Murray Beaulieu onto the show, and I nailed his name. How do you like that? Welcome. How you doing?
Awesome. Still above ground, so I'm hitting my metric. It's great to be here. I've always wanted to be on this show, and I was just blown away when you asked. I mean, seriously, I'm not just saying this because I'm on the show, but that was the best thing that happened in the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Wow, I appreciate it. Now, you've been a guest on my LinkedIn Live during the challenge. We do the 10-day LinkedIn challenge a few times a year. You've been a guest on live there and always provide some comic relief. LinkedIn can be such kind of sometimes a little bit of a boring. Yeah. Boring is not the right word. A little
stiff.
Yeah. And you got to give some levity. A little levity is not too bad.
I agree. Yeah. You got to break it up.
Now, you were telling me before that you actually, before you got into what you do now, which is really being a consultant, financial consultant in the mortgage industry and the business consulting industry. And you were, first of all, you were an Army veteran. Thank you for your service. Yeah. Yesterday was Memorial Day. Thankfully,
Memorial Day, yes.
You weren't celebrating that. But you also said you wanted to be a doctor. Is that right?
My first two initials are MD. And so I always wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't have the patience. I can tell you this, though. I don't know. I've read some information. Did you know that half of all Americans are torsos? It's unbelievable. But anyway, yes. No, I would never. That was just no, I never wanted to be a doctor. But
yeah, 9 out of 10 polls say that 9 out of 10 polls are not right.
Exactly. In fact, any country, not just Polish.
Murray, it's been a pleasure. I'd love for you to give a little more background besides for the Army veteran, what you've been doing in finance. And I know you work in the tech industry as well. So it's been a long journey to where you've gotten today.
100%. Yeah. So I was in college. I have to throw this out there. And people have seen the movie Rudy. So I was a freshman at the game that Rudy actually played in. If you watch the movie Rudy, which most people seem to know, there's a little black and white clip at the end where he actually got in the game and tackled the guy on the last play. And, we were at the game. No one knew what the hell was going on, so it was all made up. Anyway, yeah, then I went in the Army for 5 years, and I transitioned into high tech. For 35 years, I was in operations. I originally got hired out of the Army because they were hiring Army officers to run manufacturing, which made sense, the leadership. And so I started out in manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, Raytheon, as a matter of fact. I was on, among other things, I was on the Patriot missile line, which I don't know how old people are on this call, but going back to the first Gulf War, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And then I transitioned into finance within operations, which is a fine art. It's not accounting and it's not manufacturing. It's kind of the blending. It's kind of the application of accounting to manufacturing. And as twisted and sick as that sounds, I actually like that. It was kind of creative. Pure accounting, I find boring. Here's accounting in a nutshell. Make sure your debits equal your credits. Okay. All right. Now I got my accounting degree. No, but seriously, I found that applying accounting to manufacturing was pretty cool. So I could give people the skinny on how much stuff really costs. And you can idea is to make people have information to have better decisions. So right. I parlayed all that into high-tech manufacturing, 3 different Fortune 500 companies. Raytheon, everyone knows that. Then I went to Texas Instruments, which is not a calculator company. They actually make semiconductors. Mm-hmm. 0.0001 of their revenue comes from calculators, but everybody knows that.
Sure.
It's actually a massive
good branding.
Company. Yes. And they're good calculators. They've thought about getting rid of that, but they decided, we better keep that. So that's a a lot of interesting things with them. And then the last 17 years of my corporate life, I was in a semiconductor company out of Boston called Analog Devices. It's a $12 billion company that no one's ever heard of. Semiconductor is very fascinating. So I'm very excited when I got introduced to your ecosystem on LinkedIn, it's a whole nest of entrepreneurs and investors and real estate. And it's a world that I had no contact with in a corporate life. We were kind of sheltered. We were fed a steady diet of 401k, as if that was the only thing that existed. And I'm a finance guy. And so it opened up a lot of eyes. I wish I'd have met you guys 30 years ago, is all I can say. But I'm blessed that I have met you now. And for the last 5 years, I left on great terms. The last company I worked for, every company I worked for got better. Analog Devices, great company. But it's a big company. And the higher up you get, the more stiff. We'll just use the word stiff. The higher up you get, the more stiff it gets. And I don't like to say it, I'm a rebel, but I like to go against the grain. I don't like to I like to go different directions than everybody else because I like to question things, and they don't like it when you question things. So I had a great career and I enjoyed it, but I also enjoyed leaving. And now I'm an entrepreneur. It's a totally different, it's 99.9% mindset. And mindset is a word you never hear when you're working at a big corporation. Never heard that word. And so all this, it just really opens up the world. It's not for the faint of heart. When you go from a guaranteed paycheck to a non-guaranteed paycheck.
For sure.
It's very eye-opening. It's scary, but it's exciting. And, you get rewarded based on the ability to help people and your own merits. So.
Exactly. And it is a whole new world, but it's one that you're able to pave the path to. And oftentimes, like you said, when you're in a corporate job, you're in a W-2, you don't have the say on, what you can do, when you can do it, taking time off, etc. Being an entrepreneur, obviously, if you want to be successful, you probably have to work, quite a bit, especially in the early years, but that gives you a lot of options, especially if you learn to integrate things like, we talked about today, actually post about it today about who, not how, about how to actually leverage your network to delegate and do all kinds of things that can find people to help you scale, which, is not really possible when you're in a corporate job. It's like you do what you're supposed to do, and maybe you have a team, but beyond that, there's not really the room to grow exponentially like there is with entrepreneurship.
100%. However, a little bit of a caveat, and I'm a huge fan of networking. It's probably my biggest wheelhouse. Within a big company, I had the job of making stuff happen, and I had to, you have to bring in all these other disciplines to make these big projects happen. People who don't work for you. So you have to influence them to get stuff done. You just can't operate in a silo. And in order to do that, I had to do networking on an internal small scale. And that is something I'm good at. I'm not technically savvy. I mean, I had a lot of people smarter than me working for me, which is fortunate for me. But I was the one who could speak manufacturing, engineering, sales, marketing. Accountants can't speak that. So just to wrap a picture around this is, imagine this place, the last job I had, there was like 3,000 people on this campus, a very cutting edge, high tech factory was the cornerstone, but we had other, offices and stuff. And I was old school, probably no surprise there. I didn't like texting people or emailing when I could go over and walk and talk to somebody, right? And that's what I always did. And you can get so much more done, believe it or not, and then you can still throw in a few one-liners. And over time, I would map my routes of where I was going to go talk to somebody. I would leave early so I could stop in, and I'd stick my special sauce was I'd stick my head in and interrupt the meeting and just give a one-liner and then leave, hit and run. And I became famous for that. And so what that did, not only did it break up the monotony of working for a big company, and, laughter is the best medicine, but it sort of paved the way for networking. It was kind of like collateral.
Yeah.
That guy had to pay attention.
You're that guy that said that funny joke the other day.
Yeah. So they started inviting me to meetings and stuff, and hey, Murray, and then sometimes at the end there, they wouldn't start the meeting until I led with a one-liner. And for example, I was really surprised when the stationery store moved. But anyway, I digress. So
it's like you have a very similar kind of humor to Stephen Wright. Has anyone told you that?
He's one of my mentors. If you're going to ask me who my top 3 comedians are, he's one of them. Yeah, he's got a unique style. And I think it's very clever what he does. A lot of my stuff is copied from him. I don't make up my own stuff. I don't
For
make
sure.
up any of my own stuff, but yeah, he's really good. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. So
Yeah.
anyway, people value relationships, and the people who these one-liners resonated with, and I ended up working better with them. We got a lot of stuff done. It wasn't all jokes.
Yeah.
We got a lot done, but we had fun, and it's a give and take. And I had to get a lot of stuff done by people who don't work for me. So it was a way of, I don't want to say influencing, but I guess I can say influencing without being, overly overbearing. You know what I mean? So.
That's a really, I think, a point I'd like to delve into a little bit, because I think that's a lot of the strategy and tactics of social media as well. I mean, you and I both met on LinkedIn a few years ago and collaborated, done, different things together. Obviously, you participated in some of the meetups I've done and the LinkedIn challenges, and I've enjoyed a lot of your content and network. You've made several introductions to me as well, and I'm very grateful for that. But it really is that you're just showing up every day and
Yes.
kind of saying this or that, and it is slowly influencing people. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, because of the kind of real estate network that you've picked up on, you've been able to learn and kind of understand different things about finance and about investing that never even occurred to you before.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I apologize, and in the past and in the future, for anybody in your network, when I start asking dumb real estate questions. I really enjoy the challenges. Well, I enjoy your network because they give a lot. They all give a lot. They take after you. They model after you, which you're the man. But I've learned a lot about this stuff. I always thought real estate investing was buy a house and rent it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unbelievable. That's like a tiny piece of the whole what's possible. And so I am motivated. A lot of stuff I do is financial literacy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff that, small business doesn't know, stuff that people don't know about how interest works, stuff that, how business credit works. And I'm really into that. I believe in financial literacy, and, what you guys do with real estate is the same thing. You're telling people what's possible. And I'm the perfect guinea pig because I am the guy you guys are all trying to get, the W-2 guy who's been in the corporate world who has no friggin' clue, but I need you guys. And, the emphasis on a lot of your network is multifamily. I never heard of that. Boy, would I have loved to have been a limited partner 30 years ago. I mean, I love doing nothing and making money. It's the only problem with doing nothing, Yonah. It's hard to tell when you're done. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, yes, thank you for all your stuff. Really enjoy it. It's really, really impressive.
Tell me a little bit about this, the financial aspect of your current job. Obviously you started being an entrepreneur a few years ago, and like you said, focusing on business credit and business finances that people don't really know about. Well, talk to us, because
here we go.
Like you said, like I don't know about it probably, and probably a lot of the people on this show, if you say most people don't know about it, well, enlighten us.
So, and what strikes me is keep in mind, I'm a financial career dude, corporate executive, I guess. And I didn't know any of this stuff. So when I hear something, I'm like, oh my God, people don't know this. I don't know this, so I'm going to assume. So I always start off on ground zero, like no one knows this. And then as an entrepreneur, I didn't want to start from ground zero. I wanted to plug into something and then carry the ball from there, right? I didn't want to recreate the wheel. And I struggled with a couple things. My previous, I'm still doing, showing people how to pay off debt by using math. But
a little word called arbitrage.
Arbitrage. Well done.
There you go.
Well done. Yes.
That's the most French that I know.
Very good. Chateaubriand is all I know. So anyway, business credit. So here's the thing. Business credit has completely different rules and aspects than personal credit.
Right.
My audience now is a small business owner, and I am passionate about small business owners because I believe small business owners and investors, anybody with an EIN, okay, our clients are people with an EIN. I usually speak in terms of business owners, but anybody with an EIN can benefit from this. The average small business owner they are the backbone of the country.
Yeah.
They're the most important niche, if you will, and yet the odds, everything is against them. I mean, it's not intended to be so, but it's just the way things have evolved. The rest of the world is so complex, it's hard for them to get ahead. There's so many roadblocks. And, a guy who runs a plumber, he's really good at plumbing, but it's a lot to expect somebody to learn accounting and legal stuff and HR and marketing and accounting and finance and getting money when they need it.
Right.
Oh, we're real passionate about, helping them out. And so what we do is we show business owners how to separate personal credit, which they're all using to bootstrap their business, from business credit. And we can do that by showing them how to build a credit profile on their business EIN number and not their social security number. What does that do? Well, first of all, accounting 101, do not mix personal and business finances, right?
Right.
And everybody knows that, but banks make you put personal guarantees on loans. They're violating that basic concept. Do you think, here's a stupid question, do you think the owner of Walmart personally guarantees loans, business loans? Of course they don't. They have a whole bunch of different resources that are available to big companies.
Sure.
We didn't have to worry about that, right? We had hundreds of guys who figured out how to do that. All I had to do was allocate what we had and make sure it was going in the right, optimum situations. So when you can separate your business credit on your EIN, massive benefits from doing that. Okay. First of all, it's public information. So you need to look good in front of anybody who can pull your business credit report, right? And if your credit report sucks, that's going to be a black mark on you, right? And they're pulling your report whether you know it or not. They don't have to tell you that. They can pull it. So when you do have good business credit, you can get better terms on loans, you can get better interest rates, and you can get significantly higher amounts, 10x to 100x. And here's the real clincher, while minimizing, I can't say get rid of, but minimizing personal guarantees, which are the bane of small business owners. And I'm just going to go off on a little bit of tangent on that aspect. Sure. People set up an LLC, investors, business owners, corporate structures, often LLCs, but any kind of corporation, but let's stay with LLCs. LLC stands for, Yonah, hit it.
Limited Liability Corporation. So there's two ways to puncture. And so you set up that corporation to limit your liability as the owner. So the liability is with the company. That's the whole intent. But when you sign your social security number on a loan application or a credit card application a credit card application that you think is a business credit card, we have a whole speech on that. They're not always business credit cards. Just because it has business written on it doesn't mean it's a business credit card. But when you sign your social security number on the application, you puncture the corporate veil of protection that the limited liability structure was intended in the first place. So it's like taking a shower with a raincoat on. It's like defeating the whole purpose. And often banks insist on that. Well, you're going to the wrong bank or you're going to the wrong door of that bank. Banks are in the business of personal guarantees. So, and most business owners don't know this. And you know what? I didn't know this either. And so there's a whole strategy of building business credit. And the reason there's a strategy that's necessary is because you have to be intentional about building business credit. It doesn't happen automatically. There's a whole bunch of roadblocks that occur. It's not like personal credit. Once you turn 18, everything you do gets reported to the 3 credit bureaus, whether you like it or not. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sign anything. It just happens. They have an entire economic dossier. Is that a French word? Yeah.
And in business, it doesn't happen that way. It's not automatic. So we have to help you look, smell, feel, and taste like Walmart to the business credit bureaus so you can get money when you need it. And you'll know in advance you're going to get the money before you submit it. You'll know because you'll know the underwriting rules. And you won't have to personally guarantee it in most cases.
Right. I mean, money is, like you said, the fuel of any business, right? I think that's what keeps businesses from growing. I mean, you talked about the idea of a business owner having to learn all these different things, which is really not natural for someone who is a skilled worker who wants to open their own business. It's not natural for them to know all this other stuff. So it's not natural for them to figure this out also. So, I mean, this is just one of those, one kind of strand of, the suit that needs to be woven together to make a business work. And I think it's an important one, but it all comes together. And a real successful small business owner, I think, in my opinion, is someone who is really like a visionary and not necessarily the skilled labor. Meaning, I have a friend who opened a company about, a video production company, and he knew nothing about video production whatsoever. But he knew that this was going to, this is a hot kind of market, and he hired some skilled workers And he was the CEO, and he, scaled that company because, again, it's not about necessarily knowing how to do the thing that you own, but it's about finding the right people to make it happen. And that actually gives you the ability to focus on growing the business as opposed to dealing with, if you're shooting a video, you're going to be exhausted at the end of the day, right? It's full day shooting. And then you have to now look at accounts receivable, and you have to look at, following up and the marketing. All that. No, you have one guy doing the shooting of the video. You have one guy doing the marketing. You have another person, et cetera. So you can focus on growing it.
Wow. Very well. I got to hire you for my marketing team. That was very eloquent and accurate. And that's a pretty cool story. The guy didn't know anything about video production. Pretty impressive. Yeah. So yeah, it's unfair to expect these guys to know this. And when you start your own business, they don't give you a manual. Okay, here's everything you need to know about how to build your credit, or here's everything you need to know about starting your company. There's no such thing. One of our clients is a $3 million Shopify guy, and he learned everything. He had no coach, never had a coach, doesn't know anything about accounting, doesn't know anything about anything except Shopify, and he learned it all from watching YouTube videos.
Sure.
It's amazing. The guy's got $3 million. He's a 22-year-old kid.
It's crazy. That's awesome.
It is crazy. Luckily, he's at a point where he needs a lot of help because he's starting to, the challenge with him is getting him to admit he needs the help because he's starting to get, so.
Right. It's all about the who, not how. I think, that's really what it comes down to. I'll keep repeating that over and over until everyone gets it, because yes, nobody can do everything on their own, and you need help.
You need help. And
the truth of the matter is, the help that you need will actually get you to where you need to go and way further than you even knew you could get. This guy who has a $3 million company, if he hired the right people, he could scale that to probably a $10 or $50 million company.
Without a doubt. He's got the right product that people need. He's got some secret sauce on organic marketing for his particular niche, which is very unique, but there's an interest there, right? Mm-hmm. And so he could kill it if he had all the supporting people in place.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I don't know if it's a ego thing. If I admit I don't know this, is that I don't know what this, or maybe it's they're afraid to look under the cover, behind the curtain. I know I probably felt that way on certain things in life. I don't want to look at my bank account this month because it might be negative. So if I look at it, it's going to be bad. If I don't look at it, I should be okay. I don't know what the reason is, but some people don't want to ask for help. What can I say?
Yeah, I think it's really just kind of getting out of that system. You have to learn that. And that's one of the things this book, Who Not How, goes through, just talking about those limiting beliefs of how you think you have to. Everyone really starts out their own business or whatever, thinking they have to do everything themselves. And it does take some real effort and maybe just thinking outside the box, or maybe you need some objectivity from a coach or someone that you trust to show you that and tell you that.
Who Not How? That's a book. Okay. I wrote that down.
Yeah, no,
I have to check out your post.
I keep saying it, and I think I failed to mention that it's the name of a book.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Very good.
A very powerful book, by the way, I should mention. But I do want to, mention, you said want to hire me for marketing. But the truth is, you do a pretty good job at marketing yourself. I mean, I enjoy your LinkedIn posts, especially the ones with dogs in them. They tend to get a lot of traction.
I love dogs. Yeah.
I mean, that goes without saying. It's pretty clear from the amount of dogs in your post.
Well, that's another filter, right? Sure. Like jokes. If somebody doesn't like my jokes, I don't have to work with them. That's the beauty about being an entrepreneur. And I don't expect everybody to like my jokes. I don't care. I mean, my jokes are pretty bad. But if somebody laughs, that's a trigger for another conversation. If you like dogs, and a lot of people like dogs, it's a scroll stopper, And just about all those pictures are of my actual dogs. So yeah, you want to catch somebody's eye and gain their trust and find something in common, and that seems to work. But thank you. You called me out on it, and you were absolutely correct.
And if it works, use it. That's kind of how I view most things, as long as it's kosher,
Yeah. No pun intended. And families are great. Family pictures, little kids, those always get me too. Your life, it can't all be about business on LinkedIn. You gotta bring your life into it. People want to know you. People don't work with your business; they work with you. And that was hard to wrap my head around, but you can't be afraid to do that. You got to brand you. And a few people have told me that, because people do business with people. So that's my way to break the ice. I also like to talk to veterans. That often opens up a conversation, and people who went to school, the same school I did. So that anything you can find some commonality is a great place to start
Sure.
having a conversation when in doubt,
Absolutely. And the broader you make that commonality, probably the wider net that you cast, and you'll be able to filter down the right people.
Yeah. Having said that, if you can get real specific, as counterintuitive as that is, sometimes it's a home run. It's like, oh, he's talking to me, So don't be afraid to get real specific either. Here's a cliche I've heard a million times. If you try to sell to everybody, you'll sell to nobody, right? So, and that sales is the metaphor there, but it's like communicate is actually the better word there. So anyway, I know you've heard all this stuff before.
Well, really good things need to be repeated. And in order to learn something, you need to hear it multiple times before it kind of settles in. But Murray, I want to transition to what we call the final four. And these are four questions I asked all my guests. First one is, what is the worst job you ever had?
For a summer, when I was in high school, I worked at Six Flags over Mid-America in Missouri, the middle of Missouri. And they had 6 pickle stands. Okay. It was a one-man stand that's stationed all over the place. And you sold Coke, Tab. Back then there was Tab, and these pickles on a stick. They were in a big jar, and you had to reach in and get. I looked back at it, and there was flies. I became a great fly killer. And you'd sit there and luckily, my job was the floater. So for 6 days, I would take that guy's stand on his day off, and then I'd go to the next one. And so you're sitting there all day, and there's some like old McDonald farm show going on, and you hear that like 50 times during the day, it just drives you nuts. Luckily, I rotated. I pity the fool who was there 6 days a week in front of the old McDonald farm show, and it was like 120 degrees and, nothing appetizing. Oh, the other thing we sold were these ancient popcorn balls that were pre-wrapped in cellophane. I think they were wrapped from the Jurassic period. A lot of people broke their teeth on them. I mean, it was just nothing appealing about this. The only good thing about it was I didn't have to remember too much pricing. There was only like 5 things. And yet people would still buy this crap. This is in the 70s. Okay. So it was awful and it was hot, but I made jokes about it and I got people laughing, and I sold a lot of stuff, even though I regret it now because it was all probably, took years off their life as I look back at it.
Well, I think that's why Tab went off the market, right? So some sort of...
I think it was made with bug spray or something. It was awful. Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds horrible. Second question, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
A lot of good books. And reading is, in fact, when you become an entrepreneur, reading is essential. Life in general. I like Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. It's a cool way to look at, negotiating. And, he negotiated these high profile, terrorists and, all this other stuff, but it applies to life. Sales.
Yeah.
But, sales is life. You're always selling something, not
it's communication,
monetary.
Right?
It's communication. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I found that book to be fascinating and really, really helped me with, different relationships in my life because it's all about communication.
Yeah. It's great book.
All right. Third question is, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Well, I was going to say cooking, but as I started butchering French, I guess speaking French, and I'd like to go. There's a town in the south of France on the Mediterranean called Beaulieu, France, with my last name. It means beautiful place. Okay. And I doubt I'm related to anybody there. It's actually a fairly common name in France. But my goal is to go there, speak French, walk into the mayor's office, shake his hand, show him my driver's license that says Beaulieu, and say, hey, can I get any discounts? I'd like to get a picture of me with the mayor, even though I don't know who it is.
Well, you have to learn how to say that sentence in French.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So,
it'd probably be good to learn that sentence in every language, actually.
That would be. Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah.
This would be helpful.
Yes.
It's actually fascinating that you don't know much French, but your name is French, and the name of your company, Très Boucher, is also French. Like,
yes.
What's the deal with that?
Well, I didn't come up with that. My partner. It's a catapult device that uses leverage.
Gotcha.
And I've had a couple of people say, "Boy, what a crappy name." And I explain what it is, and they go, "Oh, that's a pretty." But we've had a lot of people say, "Hey, I know what that means." Like they're proud of it. I mean, frankly, I had to Google it when I first heard it. So, it's a door opener.
There you go.
So
Fourth and final question. What does success mean to you?
I like helping people. I really get excited by it, and I like making people laugh. And, I had a funny story about I'm not professional. I'm not, it's all a shtick. I don't have any training. I don't have any, schooling on this. But the best times I've ever had is standing on stage and making people laugh. And I don't know if I can share my screen real quick. Can you let me share my screen?
1 second. Yes,
I'm going to show you this picture. They
Yeah,
had
go
me
for
all throughout my career. They've had me do, like events because they want me to run the event
Like the MC.
MC, exactly. And so
Who's Joe Hagan?
Joe Hagan, that's something else. That should not be on my screen. But anyway, they had me, I worked for Raytheon. I had a big thing with the United Way. And they said, Murray, we want you to kick off the United Way donation campaign with a show. And so we modeled it after Saturday Night Live. And this is back in the early 80s. And I don't know if anybody knows, before there was Marvel, the very first show, comic book movie was Batman with Jack Nicholson.
That's right.
And if you're old enough to remember that, before the internet, that movie was overhyped, massively promoted. The star was Jack Nicholson, not Batman. It was about the Joker. And it was like the first comic book movie that has spawned, numerous others. And at the same time, at Raytheon, we had the Army is full of these acronyms. We had a program called the BAT program. And BAT stood for something which is ludicrous, brilliant anti-tank something. I don't know. But I just found it fascinating that we had the BAT program at the same time the Batman movie came out. So one of the scenes I wrote, I had to write all this up, and I had to do it in a way where everyday people, union workers who were doing soldering, I had to be able to write a script that they could do, in front of an audience, right? And it was a group participation thing. That was my charter, was I had to get everybody involved, and we had a music guy. It was really, it surprised everybody. And the climactic scene was me as the Joker, which is what you see on screen here. And that was the most fun I ever had, corporate environment. I'm going to stop sharing here. Stop share. The ability to get laughs. And we caught them all by surprise because it was all clean. Got to emphasize that. But we lampooned everybody, including upper management, right? And I look back at it, I'm surprised we didn't get fired, but we really took them by such surprise. They couldn't believe we had the guts to do that. And the plant manager himself thought it was hilarious. In fact, he injected himself into the show, and it was so big. We had the local, some places have a weatherman on TV that has a lot of. Back in the old days, they used to have, it wasn't cookie cutter people that looked like cardboard. It was actually people that had personalities. So we had the weatherman who was just wacko. We actually had him show up on the show and do a weather forecast. And right when he was doing it, it started raining. It was fabulous. So thunder, anyway, the whole thing worked like a charm. It was on TV, a local TV, and they had us repeat it in front of the corporate president.
That's awesome.
That was the most fun I ever had. And everybody agreed in that whole thing. It took me 3 days to get to sleep because I felt like I was drinking coffee for 5 weeks. I was just so charged up. But anyway, a lot of hot air to answer your question. I really like, helping people. I really feel in this small role of what we're doing now to help small business owners, it's a big deal. And I have a big network. It's not just about this. If people would like to connect with me, you never know where the conversation is going to go. I'm sure you have the same thing. A million people. It might not be something you specifically can do, but you know a guy, I got a guy, right? It's amazing. And it's not like people have to reciprocate, but sometimes it's the old, you get more from helping people get to where they want to go, whatever the friggin' Zig Ziglar quote is. You know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
I mean, look at you. You briefly talk about cost seg. Now, I happen to know that because it was a big deal in my corporate gig. But people come back to you because you've already helped everybody 15,000 times over, and it just naturally flows back to you, so
absolutely.
That's what I get excited about. Awesome. That was a long answer. Sorry.
That's quite all right. Murray, finally, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they want?
Best bet's on LinkedIn. Your network. Some famous guy once said, your network is your net worth. I've been milking that line since I heard it.
I think you got a sweatshirt that says something like that, right?
I do have that. Yes, it's fabulous. I get pictures of me in all these places wearing that sweatshirt. but from some famous guy. But I'm on LinkedIn, and hopefully it's going to be in the show notes because my last name is hard to spell.
Right.
So,
It will.
but I am the only Murray Beaulieu on LinkedIn, so it should be easy. But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, and if anything here sounded interesting, get on my calendar. Let's talk and see if I can help you out. I do know a lot of guys and women. I mean, I say guys generically, old school, but yeah, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I think if you want to fish, you got to go where the fish are. It's a professional network. You can still have a little bit of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all cat videos, although there is a lot of dog stuff on there. I can put up with that. But anyway,
Awesome.
yeah. Thank you for this opportunity, Yonah. You
My
are
pleasure.
And
This
if
is a lot of fun.
people don't know who Yonah is, boy, you've been sleeping under a rock. I haven't slept for 10 days because that would be too long. And I just want to remind you that I have a step ladder in my garage. I never knew my real ladder. Wow, these are all disjointed, but anyway, I got a cheat sheet here, by the way. I don't remember all these jokes, and they're all stolen. They're all pre-stolen, so you don't have to report me.
That's good. Okay, we'll make sure. Well, this has been a true pleasure, Murray. I appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for this. Thanks for the laughter.
I'm honored.
Look forward to seeing you back online.
Laughter is the best medicine, after all.
100%.
Right? It's been proven. Yeah.
And remember, to our listeners, thank you all for joining all the way to the end once again. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yonah Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.